Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week at Sports Community. Every Monday, I wake up and I'm very excited because something positive has happened that's taking us back to our old normal. Don't worry about this concept of new normal, but our old normal. So yesterday, 6 of our 8 states and territories had zero COVID events or new COVID cases, which is awesome. 2 states and territories did, but yet those states and territories released announcing of restrictions that bring us closer and closer to community sport, which is just awesome. I wanted to. We've been going through the COVID period now. Really, it started on Friday. Well, it didn't start on Friday the 13th, but I think as a community, we really started to feel the effects of it. Friday the 13th of March, the Grand Prix got cancelled, and then our world started to change dramatically from there. I want to just, but we've now gone forward into the middle of June, and that starts to give us a little bit of an opportunity to look backwards with the benefit of hindsight to see what was being predicted, and how is that flowing through into reality. And one of the things that we profiled was a newspaper article by Chip Legrand on April the 19th, where Chip did a great research piece talking to some of the most experienced sports administrators in the country, and about what they thought was going to happen as Corona came through, and then as we got out the back end. So we're right at the start. And what did they think? And I think it's really prophetic to look at some of the scenarios that were predicted. So Sport Australia Chief Executive Rob Dalton says that sports need to get people moving after months of lockdown. The biggest issue, and this is what Rob, Sport Australia CEO, predicted in the article on the 19th of April, the biggest issue is going to be re-engagement, Mr. Dalton told The Age. We are creatures of habit. We are concerned that the longer this goes, we are going to lose a cohort of people who won't come back to sport and will find something else to do to fill their void. Right? That was really a big statement right at the start. And then Chip went and spoke to people, very experienced sports administrators like Swimming Australia Chief Executive Lee Russell, Gymnastics Australia Chief Executive Kitty Chiller, and a range of other people. And so I was really curious as we start to come back into sport, whether that would actually play out or not. And the reality is, I think this is really an important thing to understand, that the assumption is because sport is coming back, the people will naturally come back. And I was really fascinated last week that one of the football netball clubs in Melbourne, the Chelsea Football Netball Club, so their club had not made a decision their league had not made a decision yet as to whether they were going to cancel or continue. They're working towards continuing, but the club made the decision, as it says on the screen, to withdraw from the 2020 football season. And what I really respect about this decision was not only did they make the decision, but what they did was make a very comprehensive media release that we can look at and take some learnings from. So I wanted to share with you why the Chelsea Football Netball Club did withdraw from a competition that is working really hard to actually progress. And I think what we're going to see with the easing of restrictions in Victoria over the last 48 hours, that's going to come to fruition, that competition will progress, but Chelsea have decided not to. But why did they decide not to? And it's a really well thought out decision, and a really great learning that we can take into our considerations for working with our own clubs. So in their media release, which is on their website, the Chelsea Football Netball Club, they talked about the decision. Interestingly enough, they're a football netball club, but Unlike many other football netball clubs and competitions around Victoria at the moment, they did not withdraw their netball. So that I found that really, really interesting. A really consultative decision, and the three criteria were put in place to determine the viability of the commencement of the 2020 season. Player welfare, number one, which is fantastic. But what they did, a survey of the football playing group was taken. So they didn't seek to talk on behalf of the playing group. They actually did the research and they effectively asked the playing group, what do you think? And I think that's a really important step, is to get the feelings of the group. And what they found was 68% of players were concerned with their personal health and well-being if games commenced. 68%. And there's no reason to think that the players of Chelsea are any different to the players of any other club in any other sport. 70% of the playing group voted to cancel the season and recommence training for the 2021 season in October, November this year. So 70% of the players didn't want to play, right? Which then goes back to reaffirming the fears of those really senior experienced sports administrators when COVID first started, right? And so it's not really questioning the motives at the time, but Rob Dalton's words saying that we are creatures of habit. And so now with the season not going on, there's going to be 18 months between players last were at the club, really, then that's a significant time to form new habits. They did go on to say approximately 20% of the playing group has been displaced from their regular employment. And that's an issue that can't be underestimated and can't be understated, is the assumption that to make ends meet, people are taking work where they can, when they can. If that means playing on a Saturday afternoon, then in this case, then so be it. So player welfare was point number one. Member and volunteer welfare was number two. At this point, Chelsea Football Netball Club cannot guarantee the safety of its members and volunteers, as it does not yet know the hygiene criteria to host or participate in football. The other component is the level of stress being felt by coaches, board members, volunteers. That is simply unsustainable. And that's a feeling that has become overwhelming coming from committees around the country, is that it's a monumental decision. There's one thing to get back to sport. It's another thing, should we get back to sport? And all of a sudden, hold on, it's my responsibility as the committee member, as the president, to ensure that people are safe in our club, that we don't have a COVID cluster at our club, right? And so the level of pressure and stress that this is putting on the leaders of clubs is absolutely significant. Really is significant. And I truly commend Chelsea Football Club for having the courage to articulate that. I think that's fantastic. And then the third decision-making criteria that they used was financial sustainability. And what they did was articulate what we all know. Chelsea Football Netball Club Board has completed a comprehensive analysis and determined that the season is unviable, with 85% of its sponsors forced to close or be severely impacted by COVID-19. The club currently does not have any indication on when it can use its facilities, right? So this links back to those discussions that we continually have had about making sure that you're linking in with council. And Wendy from City of Mandurah came on and really shared her knowledge and experiences, which was fantastic for us all. So because there's that just assumption, sports back, well, let's get going. But no, we've got to link in with council, get permission from council, and then tick the boxes. And they're not boxes to be ticked. Put everything in place that ensures that the people, when they do come back to our club, are safe and successful, safe, and that it is a successful season. The club currently does not have any indication of it can use its facilities. Currently banned from entering its facilities for any use. President Michael Davis said it was a tough decision, and James, I was reading a newspaper article on the weekend talking about ex-CEO ex-Cricket Australia CEO James Sutherland, and he quite said that it was a really good time not to be a cricket administrator. Because the decisions, and take that right down to community sport, the decisions that are being asked to be made of community sport leaders are tremendous and are weighing heavily on many of us. With over 110 years of history, we need to ensure that we are here for our members for many more years to come. Our resolve for success will only become greater as we begin to plan for season 2021. And we look forward to re-engaging with our community once we can do this in line with the government and local council guidelines. The president went on to talk about the support that they got as through the decision-making process with the different AFL bodies in the area. So I really, really, really commend Chelsea Football Club, not just for making the decision, but I think being so open with their communication that it really allows, from my perspective, it allows people like sports community, peak sporting bodies, councils, government to truly understand the journey that our sports club leaders are going through and the challenges that they're facing, the pressure and the stresses that it causes. And so the flip side now is that we really all need to start to be thinking about, okay, even if we do go ahead with the season, not everybody is going to come back for whatever reason, health, well-being, financial, et cetera, et cetera. How do we make sure that we not only get them back next year, but continue to be prosperous and successful at our community club level? So as I've said, sports community is its real focus over the upcoming weeks and months, is how do we support clubs to continually engage their community down this extended off season, and how do we ensure that we get participants back as and when we are able to, and B, choose to. And I think that's a really important point reinforced by Chelsea Football Netball Club. So to that effect, what we've got at Sports Community, we're running 2 lots of training programs via webinar. One starts, so it's a social media communication webinar series. It's a 4-week webinar series starting this Thursday, which is the 18th of June. It runs for 4 weeks. It's 3 weeks. Sorry, it's very, very cost effective. About $10 a session to attend, and that's what we're going to be doing. Is we're going to be looking at saying, how do we use comms, social media engagement to keep our audience together and grow it, so that when we do choose to come back, they're ready. And so then a little bit later, a couple of weeks later, early July, 7th of July, I think it is, on a Tuesday night, we're going to be looking at participation strategies, recruitment and participation strategies to recruit players, volunteers, officials, coaches back to our club. So really looking at it through the COVID lens and looking at it in a completely different way to what we've traditionally looked at recruitment, because we're going to need to, because the sport's different. We've also got what we've called the Professional Development Series, starting this Wednesday. Now, that's for people that work in peak sporting bodies. It's a 9-webinar session run each fortnight starting Wednesday. It's a bit more expensive. It's just on $200, but 9 sessions going in depth into some of these quite complex situations and how to respond, and empowering people to work with their sporting clubs. Or if you're an experienced volunteer, really giving you that information that's going to help support you. And really what we're trying to do is help overcome that stress and anxiety of making the decisions that you're going to need to at some stage. So the links are all in the post of the Facebook page. So thank you for watching. There's been a great number of people jumping on for today's session. I think it's a really important session. Love it if you join us in the webinars, tag people in, share it. If you're going to be watching live, I'm really happy to take questions through the live session. So please just put them into the comment section of the Facebook page, and we'll talk about things as we go. So thanks for being here today. Thanks for joining us pretty much lots of days on the live stream. Until tomorrow, I'm Steve Pallas, and thank you for being part of our sports community.